is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
This is Duck Insider.
We need to get community. We need this thing to be bigger than just our little circle of players and coaches.
Are you kidding me? Touchdown, Oregon!
With 2 seconds on the clock. He hits it!
That's the bigger picture in this thing, allowing the community to celebrate the hard work, blue-collar mentality this group brings to the table.
And the Ducks have won it! The Ducks have won!
We get to struggle together, and we get to have joy together.
The Ducks are Pac-12 champions!
I am so proud right now to be the head coach at Oregon.
Oregon's a Fiesta Bowl champion in a 12-win season.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck Athletics.
Welcome back from the weekend here in the Country Financial Studio. It's Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union, and it was a weekend of hoops for the University of Oregon, both the men and the women on the road battling, and the men got two big quad one wins over the weekend. We talked about the Thursday win over Washington on the show on Friday. The Ducks also got a big-time 89-84 win over Washington State. That game was on Saturday night. We'll break that all down for the Ducks, as well as the women's basketball team as they traveled south to Los Angeles to play two top 10 opponents in UCLA and USC. UCLA a little bit shorthanded for the Ducks. USC, Oregon came back and gave the women of Troy a strong run for their money in that ball game as well. But we'll start with the men here for Oregon as they continue to rattle through the Pac-12 schedule. The Ducks 4-0 in conference play after the win over Washington State. The Ducks have won 5 consecutive ball games in a row. And how did it happen for the Ducks in this one? Because it was similar to the way that the Ducks won against Washington, but it felt almost a little bit reversed to me in how the Ducks were able to win against the Huskies, where Oregon still had some of the same faux pas in the first half, letting Washington State get to the foul line, all of that. But when the Washington game came down to big shot making, it seemed like Oregon got all their big shots early in the ball game and only had to rely on a couple here late against Washington State. Let's break down the game and how it happened, because it did start out with the big shot making of the Ducks, and in particular 3 of the guards for Oregon really making their impact shooting the basketball. Brennan Rigsby, Jackson Shelstad, Jermaine Couisnard, pretty much all jumpers throughout the first half, and all 3 of them were at a very highly efficient clip, which is pretty rare for the level of difficulty of the shots that they were taking. Brennan Rigsby in the first half, 13 points, 5 of 5 from the field, and 3 of 3 from the three-point line. Brennan Rigsby knocking it down. He made a big impact. Dana Altman talked about him. We'll get to Coach Altman a little bit later in the show. Jackson Shelstad, 7 points, 3 of 4 from the field. He made one of his 2 three-point attempts in the first half. He had 3 first-half assists and 2 first-half rebounds. That was Jackson Shelstad's first-half line. And then Jermaine Couisnard, he didn't want to get left out. 9 points for him, 4 of 6 from the field. He knocked down a 3, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. Those are just the first-half numbers for those 3 guards. Oregon, it was the theme, shooting the basketball in the first half. The Ducks shot it well. 7 of 11 from 3, 18 of 26 from the field, 64% from the field in the first half is how the Ducks were able to get it done and get that lead over Washington State in the first half. There were a few other first half stats that went in the Ducks' favor. Oregon significantly won the rebounding battle in the first half. 14 Duck boards in the first compared to just 8 for Washington State. The same problem that happened in the first half against Washington. Oregon let the Cougs get to the free throw line, and similarly to the way that Oregon was outshot at the charity stripe earlier this weekend, the Ducks were outshot at the charity stripe, especially in the first half again in this game. Wazoo, 11 for 15 from the line. That just in the first half. Oregon, 3 of 4 at the break. So very similar to the way that this weekend went as a whole. Ducks up 46-41 at the break as they went into halftime. Oregon would continue out of the second half, and they would continue to build upon their lead. They went into the break with a 5-point advantage. All of a sudden, you looked up at a halftime, it was a 12-point lead for the Ducks just a few minutes in. Brennan Rigsby, Jackson Shellstad, both of which knocked down 2 jumpers, a 3-point apiece for each of them, and a mid-range jumper as well. Jermaine Kuznard in on the action. He got a layup, and all of a sudden, Ducks up 12, and it was a cushion that Oregon was able to maintain for a majority of this broadcast, or for a majority of the game, where the Ducks, they were able to continue to build upon that margin and maintain that lead for really the entirety of the second half. It seemed like Oregon was battling between that 12 to 6-point advantage. There were some ebbs and flows, and Washington State would get back in, but Oregon never really seemed to let the Cougars into the ball game very much, and it was in large part due to Curry Oquendo on the offensive side of things for the Ducks in the second half. He put together a really strong second period for the Ducks, where in the second half, Oquendo, 11 points, didn't miss a shot. 4 of 4 from the field, 3 of 3 from deep. The Cougs, that's when they started to turn it around. It seemed like Oregon lost some of that shot making that they had early in the first half, and for about a 10-minute stretch, Washington State went on a 15-6 run. That dwindled the game all the way down to just under 2 minutes left in the ball game, where the gap was just 2. Oregon just had a 2-point lead. So for the entire game, where it felt like the Ducks were in control, Oregon was in the driver's seat in the ball game, Washington State really closed it up as of late. But the same way that Oregon has done time and time and time again over the last few weeks, the Ducks, when it's come down to the wire, have found ways to win. And while it was at the free throw line with clutch free throws against Washington, USC, UCLA earlier in this conference slate, Oregon knocked down a few key free throws, but also opened the door for Washington State with a few key free throw misses. In the bonus, with the front end of 1-and-1s for both Jackson Shellstad and Kwame Evans Jr., neither one of the freshmen were able to knock down the front end. It gave Washington State opportunities to continue to claw back into the ball game. Then all of a sudden, you're under a minute left. Ducks are up by 2. What are you going to do? You get the ball to a shooter. It's Bam Tracy, Jadrian Tracy, able to knock down a 3 with 40 seconds left. Stretched the lead to 5 points in the ball game with under a minute, and there was not a whole lot for Washington State to continue to maneuver at this point in the game. Wazoo made a bucket, brought it down to a possession, but there was no shot clock. They had to foul Keyshawn Barthélemy, the man on the other side for the Ducks, who he got fouled. He made some big-time free throws, 2 of them with 9 seconds left, ballooned the Oregon lead back up to 5, and that's all she wrote. The 89-84 win for the Ducks over Washington State as Oregon advances to 4-0 in conference play. Some of the stats for this ball game individually: Brennan Rigsby, 18 points in the ball game, 7 of 9 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. His plus-minus, plus 18, leading all Ducks. A strong performance from the guard Brennan Rigsby. Jermaine Kuznard as well, 16 points, 6 of 14 from the field, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. And on the defensive side of things, 3 steals for Kuznard. So making himself a presence on the boards with those 7 rebounds, making himself a presence with the defense with those 3 steals as well. Two-way player Jermaine Kuznard, who is filling in a whole bunch of different roles for this Oregon team. Gary Oquendo, I mentioned his strong second half. He finished the game 15 points, was perfect from the field, 5 of 5 from the field, 4 of 4 from 3. And if Gary is going to knock down those 3-point shots, this is a scary Oregon team to guard out on the perimeter. There's just so many options outside when you have Brennan Rigsby, Jermaine Kuznard, Cario Oquendo, a whole bunch of other guards and bigs that can also stretch it out to the perimeter like a Jadrian Tracy or a Kwame Evans. It's really hard to guard a team that can shoot all over the court, and that is a little bit of what Cario Oquendo, along with some of these other Ducks, are providing for Oregon, especially in this ballgame against Washington State. And then the freshman, Jackson Shellstad, in this ballgame, 14 points, 6 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, as Oregon was able to maneuver through the ballgame in Pullman. The Ducks snapped a 3-game losing streak on the Palouse, as the Ducks now back in the win column against Washington State. Oregon has had a lot of success against Washington State pretty much everywhere outside of Pullman. Now Oregon continuing their winning ways, breaking that streak as the Ducks, well, they're now 1-0 in their last one at Washington State. Oregon continuing to move forward, 4-0 in Pac-12 conference play. Ducks continuing to build on the momentum as they enter into the beginning of Pac-12 play. That's the game rundown. That's how it happened for the Ducks on the road. We still have to hear from Coach Altman. His thoughts on the game, what went well, what didn't. We'll hear from all that after this timeout on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the Lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Country Financial Studio. It's Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. We broke down the game against Washington State, the 89-84 win for the Ducks. Well, who cares what I have to say? Let's hear from Coach. Coach Dana Altman, after the game, he sat down with Joey Mack on the radio. Let's hear what Coach's thoughts were after the win.
He said, on the road you find a way to win, and found a way to win here down the stretch, didn't you?
No, absolutely. We hit some shots, hit a lot of shots, but we got into a period there we just exchanged baskets. Our defense really disappointing there. I think we got just a little too happy. We were just hitting shots and exchanged baskets a little too much, especially on the road. And that's they make that little run there late because, we miss a couple and we're not getting stops. And so we've got to tighten that up. Because we're not going to shoot it that well every night. Carrios Bank, we got a couple. Good effort. Guys did a good job. Key hit 2 big free throws there to lock it up. And, we wanted Jackson on the line. He left that a little short and they gave up a little quick 2 there. And KJ missed one. When he had a long streak of making free throws, and he missed one. So, both front ends, those 2, but they've done such a good job. Jackson's been great. Mookie did a good job tonight in the few minutes he's got, and KJ, he wasn't as sharp as he's been, but we're playing him a lot of minutes, and he got a little foul trouble, and they got a good inside game. So, it was a good win, road wins, and we haven't played well here. We haven't shot it like this here in a long time, so it was good just to get some buckets down.
A big bucket that I wanted to ask you, too, about was Bam Tracy's 3. That was a huge shot there toward the end to stay in the lead.
Oh, yeah, no. We needed every one of them. But, we moved the ball there pretty good. I thought our ball movement was so much better tonight than it was against Washington. And it's one of the reasons we got so many good looks. Yeah. Other than Carrio's bank, all our threes were fairly uncontested. And I thought a lot of it was, pretty good ball movement.
18 assists in the game.
Yeah, no, that's, good for us. 18 assists on 32 baskets, so I thought we moved it pretty good.
How about Brennan Rigsby, and particularly early, Coach? Few games now where Brennan's given you some points early and he ends up with 18 in this game.
Oh, no, he did a great job early. He really got us going and missed a couple. I think he missed his last two, but up until that point, he started out at half he hadn't missed a shot and got us started the second half with two quick buckets and so he made a couple mistakes there defensively, and I probably sat him too long. That was probably should have got him back in there a lot quicker.
How happy are you to be +3 on the glass, too?
No, that was big. They were +8 on the year, +7 in conference, playing Utah, Colorado, Oregon State, 3 teams that rebound pretty good. So us being a +3 was huge.
And your leading rebounder is Jermaine Kusnar, and had 7 for you tonight.
Yeah, Jermaine, when he's on the floor, we're just a better team. He just holds us together, gives us a purpose defensively. He's our best defender. No, I thought he was really good again.
How valuable is it to move to 4-0? I mean, it's obvious to say, hey, Coach, you're 4-0, but, man, that's hard to do in this conference. Not a lot of teams start 4-0.
Well, it just good road trip, but now we go home and we got some time. We got a week here. We don't play till Saturday, so we got to get our defense ironed out and keep our ball movement going, get ready for Cal. Then we go back on the road again. So, it's a long season. 4 games out of 20. We still got a lot to go. We only played 20% of the games, so we can't get too excited about it. But again, we needed a good start, and now we hopefully get some guys back yet, Dante or Nate or something, just to give us a little bit more presence inside and a little bit more of a scoring threat. Mo's holding it down. KJ's done some wonderful things, but we sure could use that experience and that size. You could see it tonight again.
Talking about experience too, Coach, you're 7-1 now in your last few games that have been decided by 5 points or less. I mean, how valuable is that just to have you're finding a way in those tight games?
No. Every season, if you look at scores, every season is decided by those games that are 2 or 3 possession games. They, because you have so many of them. And, Key hitting those 2 free throws. Right. I mean, it just pretty much ended the game. He misses them. There's still 9 seconds, so you really don't want to foul too early. You don't mind following them, under 5, but you can't foul with 9 because you got too many possessions. So, Key hitting those 2 free throws was huge. And, we hit him against UCLA. We, hit him against Washington the other night. So that's why, I was sure Jackson was going to hit that. He's been money, all the time. But, again, that's part of the game. We did go 11 for 14, and so we didn't shoot him too bad.
Well, Coach, congrats on the win. I know it's been a tough place for you, so it had to feel good.
Yeah. Last couple of years we haven't played with the darn here, so it was good.
Thanks, Coach.
You
Appreciate
bet.
the time.
You just heard Dana Altman talk with Joey Mack postgame in the win for Oregon over Washington State, 89-84. You mentioned him. You heard him actually talk about Jackson Shellstad and the confidence that he had in Shellstad and those 1-and-1s that Jackson actually ended up missing at that point in the ball game. And even with that miss by the freshman, that's the type of confidence you want in the postgame from your head coach. Yeah, Jackson was going to go up there and he was going to make those free throws. And well. Yeah, he didn't make them that time, but those are the type of situations that, you want your freshman in, taking clutch free throws down the stretch to try to extend a lead in a conference game, but also it's the short-term memory that you want from a team as well, where, I was sure Jackson was going to make those, but, well, he didn't, and, well, still got the victory. Those are good things to hear from Coach Altman after the victory, the 89-84 win. What does that mean for the Ducks? It's another quad 1 victory for Oregon. Yeah, it's still January. We're sitting here January 8th, But it's time to start looking at these things, especially now that we're into conference play. Oregon opened conference with 0 Quad 1 wins. The Ducks get 2 Quad 1 wins over the weekend on the road against both Washington and Washington State. Now, again, the Quad 1 win qualifier is a top 75 road win or a top 30 home win in the net rankings. We'll continue to break that down as we continue to move forward throughout the season. Oregon continues to rattle off top wins and hopefully more Quad 1 wins. It also jumps Oregon in the net. Oregon started the weekend at 72nd in the net rankings. Oregon jumped 21 spots over the weekend with the win over both Washington and Washington State. Oregon all the way up to 51st in the net. And according to a whole bunch of different early brackets and projections, Oregon, you think the Ducks are probably, if the season ended today, in the field. So the Ducks continuing to ride some momentum and continuing to put themselves in strong position throughout this season. All right, that's Oregon men's basketball. The 89-84 victory over Washington State as the Ducks move to 4-0 in Pac-12 play. The women, they had a tough test on the road against both UCLA and USC. We're breaking down the tight contest in Los Angeles next on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Into the building for the first time after the shooting. It was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation to honor Pulse victims and survivors.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
Join the fight for LGBTQ acceptance. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Welcome back inside the Country Financial Studio. Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. All right, Oregon men's basketball, they won over the weekend, got 2 W's over both Washington and Washington State to advance to 4-0 in conference play. The women had a tough test over the weekend as they went down to Los Angeles to play the second-ranked UCLA Bruins and the 9th-ranked USC Women of Troy. So 2 very difficult games for Oregon, and against UCLA, the Ducks were shorthanded. Chance Gray missed the game, so Ducks without one of their big 3 and a really tough test against a very strong Bruins team. Oregon ended up dropping that ball game, and, well, the Ducks, when they came into the game on Sunday, there was some extra juice and extra momentum, and it really felt like when you were watching this game that Oregon came out with a new level of intensity. First of which, Chance Gray was active in this game, so it was good to get her back and be a contributor for this Oregon team, and a big piece that she is, not only to Oregon as a whole, but especially into their offense. But Oregon really went toe-to-toe with USC throughout the entirety of the game. And well, let's break down how it happened for Oregon women's basketball, where the Ducks, they started out the game against USC pretty strong. It was Philippina Shea in the first half that really asserted herself. 8 points just in the first quarter alone, 4 of 4 from the field. And when Oregon left the first quarter, the Ducks were, well, right in it with USC. It was 14-13 after the first, and a really strong start for the big in the middle for the Ducks and Shea. And then it was a little bit of help from the shooters on the outside. Sophia Bell, she came alive in the second quarter, knocked down 2 threes as Oregon continued to keep pace with USC throughout the ball game. And a big key to that has been Oregon's defense. We came into this ball game saying that Oregon has been good at really 2 things, really good actually at 2 things. It had been taking care of the basketball and also limiting opposing teams, being really strong defensively. Kelly Graves had praised the defense for the Ducks and their defensive effort, and against Juju Watkins, who came in as the second leading scorer in the country, Oregon, they held her to just 7 points in the first half. Someone who averages just under 30 points per game. Yeah, Oregon did a really strong job, especially in the first against Watkins, to keep the Ducks in it, as Oregon, they were down by just 7 at halftime. 30-23 was the score going into the break for the Ducks. And, well, then in the third quarter, here's Chance Gray. Didn't have any points in the first half. It was a little bit of a slow start for her to get back and acclimated. Didn't practice throughout the week. Didn't play against UCLA. But once she got it going, she really revitalized Oregon's offense in the second half. She had 7 points in the third quarter alone for Chance Gray to bring the Ducks right back in. It was their best scoring quarter, and actually the Ducks outscored USC in the third quarter as they continued to claw back into the game. Sophia Bell in the third quarter also helped the Ducks do that, kept knocking down shots, 5 third quarter points as well for Bell. So she had 11 in just the second and third quarter alone. Ducks down 6 after the third, and here's where Oregon really got back in the game. Started the fourth quarter, intensity, and it was Grace Van Slooten. Throughout the entirety of the game, it seemed like Grace Van Slooten was knocking down a few buckets here and there throughout each quarter, and you looked at her stat line, it was a pretty good stat line, and then you got to the fourth quarter, and it was, okay, it's time for GVS to really put this team on her back. A 5-0 solo run to start the quarter as Oregon really shortened up the USC lead. It was just a 1-point game in the fourth quarter, but that's when USC was able to close on a 15-4 run. They sealed the game, and they sealed the victory, a 68-54 win for USC, as Oregon ended up dropping that one on the road. Some stats for the Ducks. Grace Van Slooten played all 40 minutes in this ballgame, 18 points, 6 of 16 from the field, 6 boards and 2 assists for GVS. Chance Gray, in just the second half alone, 11 points for her, also played 37 minutes in this ballgame. Kelly Graves talked about her and her conditioning as she wasn't able to work throughout the week, but still put in 37 minutes in this ballgame. Sophia Bell, 11 points, 4 of 7 from the field, 3 of 6 from deep. Also 4 rebounds as well for Bell. And then how about this stat line from Philly? Philly Shea, 10 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists for the Bigs. Oregon, especially in the first half, was able to run a lot of their offense around Philly as the Ducks kept pace with a top 10 USC team for really the entirety of the ball game outside of the last 7 minutes. Oregon ends up dropping that game. They end up dropping their third consecutive game in conference play, but a team that has continued to give a lot of top-quality opponents their best shot. Kelly Graves, he talked with Chris Clayton on the postgame after the game. Here is Coach KG and his thoughts after the game against USC.
Coach, what stood out to you in that game, battling to the end, a really close game?
Well, I thought we played most of the game at our tempo. We really did, and it unfortunately just kind of got away from us there at the end. You know, they made some plays, and quite frankly, we didn't. But we put ourselves into a position to, to win the game, quite frankly. And we just didn't have enough bullets there at the end. A couple questionable shots, but for the most part, I'm really pleased with this game, much more so than I was on Friday. This is a good team, a top rank. I don't even know what they're ranked. I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's one of the best teams in the country, and we went with them toe to toe and. Unfortunately, we just, in the end, fell short. But much better job on the boards tonight, much better job of taking care of the ball. We just they've got a couple of really, really good players, and they hurt us late. Juju's a heck of a player. I thought for the most part we did a good job on her tonight, but it's hard to keep someone like that down the whole game.
What do you think flipped for you in that third quarter? 21 points in the third. Chance Gray really got going on offense. What were the adjustments that helped that out?
Well, number one, listen, we're not rocket scientists here. Yeah, we made some baskets. We hit a couple of threes. It loosens up it makes the offense flow a little bit better, put some pressure on the defense. Grace, was a lot more aggressive that quarter. I thought we executed well when we ran sets tonight. I thought for the most part we really executed well. So, again, it's not rocket science. We just got to continue to do a better job of executing. I thought Philly had a heck of a game tonight. Again, Grace played like a warrior. And Sophia, I thought, did a nice job. It was good to have Chance back as well. You could tell she was a little bit rusty and got tired. She hasn't done anything this whole week, so that's not been easier for her. But she stepped in and played a good ball game. So, listen, we're disappointed, but we just think about the three teams we've had to start with all on the road. Two top 5 teams and our rivals who are also very, very good on the road. So it'll be good to get back home for a couple of games this week. But we've got to continue to get better. But this is something to build on, no doubt.
Great learning experience and a close battle here. Thanks for your time, Coach.
Thanks.
A close battle, just like Chris and Coach KG mentioned in the game against USC, as Oregon went toe-to-toe with the number 9 ranked team in the country. The Ducks, on the women's side of things, will be back in action coming up on Friday at 7 o'clock at Matthew Knight Arena, 6:30 pregame show. Chris Clayton will have the call with Bev as well over at MKA for that. All right, we got to take another timeout. And when we come back, we're still talking hoops, and Joey Mack is here. He's going to join the show next on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? I'm just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, Honey Bear.
Because remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union here in the Country Financial Studio. Ryan Milano with Joey Mack
This is
here.
weird.
Yeah.
I don't.
This is odd.
He's
I don't really sit in this chair unless it's the football coaches show. It's weird.
Yeah, and normally I'm like back there. You can't even see me on that show. I'm all the way back there.
Yeah, Ryan's always running audio. That's what Olivia's doing today, making us sound good. So, this chair is way more comfortable. Like,
oh, it is. I always like when I get to sit in that chair.
I think that we should get a set of these chairs for behind the desk.
You think?
That's going to be my
These
off-season.
recline better, though. Like
what night? Oh, be like on a booster seat? I mean, I don't know. I bet you the courtside chairs that actually we have one back there. Shout out to Les. Les hooked us up with a courtside chair from Matthew Knight Arena. 2 of them, actually. I wonder if those are more comfortable.
As much as I love the courtside chair, this chair does sort of bend with you.
I hate that chair.
Really?
Oh, dude, that is my least favorite thing in the studio.
I thoroughly enjoy this chair.
It makes my legs hurt. Like when it like cuts off the circulation like right underneath your thighs.
How are you sitting in your? Are you like
normal?
Curling?
You're like
are you
leaning
curling
forward.
Your legs
no,
under...
you're leaning forward in a
not.
way that you are. I can see you doing it. You're leaning forward in a way that I don't know. Scott, you don't like those chairs either, right?
I don't even understand.
They
how
cut
you
off
could
the circulation in the legs. Yeah, thank you.
I don't understand how you could possibly be sitting in a way.
The
that
point
cuts
is,
off
the studio is phenomenal. We love it. Actually, seriously, we do. But, the chair is the least favorite thing that I have. My chair at home at my desk is so much more comfortable. I have contemplated bringing it in multiple times.
You should do that. We should compare.
It has a really high back, though. It's very large. Like, this one is like it only comes up to, like, mid-back. It's like a really tall chair with, like, a headrest.
I've always sat down in this chair and thought, okay, this is a good, solid chair that does the job that I want it to do pretty well. I like chairs to be as functional as possible.
You know what they say? You're supposed to spend the money on the things that separate you from the ground. Like, you don't skimp on shoes. You don't skimp on tires. You don't skimp on mattresses. You don't skimp on chairs. I'm sure there's something else on that list. Am I missing one?
It's a weird list.
No, seriously. Like you spend the money on the things that separate you from the ground. Those are like some of the most important things that you have, like shoes. Your back doesn't hurt when you have good shoes. Everything works better when you have good shoes. When you have a good mattress, you sleep better. You don't ache. When you have good tires, you don't go sliding around on the road and and good chairs, like you're in an ergonomic position. How often do we talk about being ergonomically sound now? Like, I don't want to have to make a trip to the athletic trainers after I'm done with the show. They've got other things to worry about.
I, for one, do, but that's a different day.
Boy, I really took. Whenever this is great. Whenever I'm in this chair, the show just completely derails. I just want everybody to know this is what Jerry Allen has done to me for a decade. So this is just me, like, continuing yeah, it does. This is just me continuing the tradition of having fun. One time Jerry came to the show, like, purposefully 5 minutes. Well, I think it was purposeful. He got here 5 minutes late and knew that I had nothing else to talk about except, like, interviewing him. And he purposefully got here 5 minutes late. And it was like, I think it was like the 10th show that I ever hosted. And I was like, what do I do?
That's really funny because
what do I talk about?
Actually, to take listeners a little bit behind the scenes of what's happening today, Joey has been in the studio the whole time. And when I said, "Oh, Joey's going to come on for the next segment," he said, "Actually, I'll let you go do another segment." And then at the very
I thought
last
that people would want to hear about football before they'd want me to derail the show. But Ryan's call.
We can do both at the same time.
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
Well,
what am I here for?
I want to talk about basketball actually a little bit first.
Hoops.
I do actually just want to know about your time in Pullman because we haven't gotten any snow in Eugene this year, and it seemed like it was a blizzard, so to speak.
Yeah, so inside the travel party, the men's basketball team was on the bus, was at the plane, and unfortunately the runway was too slick, and they said that it wasn't safe for us to take off. So the team actually stayed the night in Pullman on Sunday, and then flew back, or I should say until Sunday, and then flew back. And it was really odd. I got to be honest. Like, Pullman has been a really tough place for Oregon men's basketball the last few years. Ducks have lost 3 of the last 4 heading into that game against Washington State in Pullman. One of them was Klay Thompson jersey retirement night at Beasley. And so it had been a weird place. So Oregon shooting it the way they did. You heard Coach Altman. We were talking post-game earlier on the show. that, look, it's a odd place to play and that there's not a great environment. You kind of have to generate your own energy. I'm a believer that the teams that are at their best are the ones that take a tough road environment, in that, like, there's a lot of energy against you in the road environment. I think the best teams are ones that feed off that. I think Oregon's best teams have been ones that have done that. I think of the Dylan Brooks teams. That team loved being on the road at Arizona. Like, that team loved being in a packed McHale and dominating. You know, they just did. So this was the opposite of that, and it has been. And Oregon has played some, truthfully, clunkers in that building. So it was nice to see those threes go in early, particularly Brennan Rigsby. One of my keys on Tip-Off Tuesday, the basketball coaches show, which starts tomorrow, by the way, with Coach Altman this week, is going to be that Brennan Rigsby's been really good, particularly early in games, hitting shots. And he's also shooting, like, 44% from three now? I haven't seen the updated stats today. That was bad of me. I wasn't prepared for this. Maybe Ryan can look it up.
48% from three.
48% from three for Brennan Rigsby. I mean, that was a huge point for Oregon coming into this season. And I thought this game was a microcosm of, like, man, last year the three-point percentage was historically low for Oregon men's basketball. This year and in this game, the Ducks were lights out from three. Brennan Rigsby's been the sharpshooter that they thought he would be if he was healthy last year. He's been healthy this year. Makes a huge difference when you're consistently in the gym. This game was a microcosm, I think, of Oregon's season, in that they have overperformed some of those question mark and expectations coming into it. And it was weird for me, though, looking around and realizing that might be the last time I ever set foot in Pullman.
Actually, I want to talk about that a little bit.
But wait, no, like, let that land for a second.
We'll
I don't think I will be back in Pullman. I like Pullman.
No, Pullman's fun. And for an Oregon team that hadn't had recent success up in Pullman, gets the success in what could be the final game there in quite some time. In sort of the grand scheme of, like, Pac-12 basketball and what it's meant between Oregon and Washington State, where it's always felt like that's been a pretty tough road trip for Oregon to go and win. What does it sort of mean to close out that chapter of the Pac-12 and be like, okay, you get one last one up in the Palouse?
Well, I think the history, Oregon's been really successful against Washington State in the Pac-12 era. Ducks are, 19-7, I think, now against Washington State in the Pac-12 era. But, like, all but one of those losses have been in Pullman. And so, but, I will say, Coach Altman has a winning record against every Pac-12 opponent in his 14 years as the head coach at Oregon, except Colorado. He's 10-13 against Colorado. And the Ducks have one of, and have really throughout the entire 14 years that Coach Altman's been here, the Ducks have had one of the best road records in the conference pretty much every year. There were a couple years where it wasn't going that way, and I think Arizona still has the best winning percentage on the road in the league in the Pac-12 era. But the Ducks are right there and have been. And I thought that this was a good example of kind of getting back to that. Oregon's been a good road team under Coach Altman. And so I thought, closing it out, the history, I guess, in that way, I hadn't really thought about it more than just, like, I personally won't be in Pullman and on the Palouse anytime soon. Their baseball team plays here in May. So I was actually talking with our counterpart, Matt Chazanow, about that. I was like, well, Chaz, won't see you in Pullman, but we'll see you in Eugene for Washington State anyway. But historically, I mean, there's been a lot of games where those two teams have met. So we'll see. I think, though, that in the example of this season, Ducks are one of two teams that are undefeated in conference right now. The other is Arizona State. If I told you going into the season that Arizona State was going to be undefeated and Oregon was going to be undefeated through the first 2 weeks of conference play, and, oh, by the way, Oregon won't have N'Faly Dante and won't have Nate Biddle for the vast majority of those games, I don't think anyone would have believed me.
I'm not sure I would have believed
Like,
you.
I mean, Arizona State, no slight to Arizona State, like, they've been traditionally under Bobby Hurley a good team at home, like everyone usually is in college basketball. But I just didn't. I did not think that would be the case.
When I watched the end of their game against Colorado, it was wild.
It was a crazy ending. And Colorado, I thought Colorado had a good chance to be undefeated, honestly, at this point. Arizona, I think, is still one of the best teams in the country. Pac-12's good this year. I think Arizona State's overperformed. I think a lot of people would say with the injuries that Oregon has overperformed. But that's where, to me, like, this Oregon team, again, one of the questions going in was how would they shoot the ball. The Ducks have shot the ball very well. Even though they're in the middle of the conference in the shooting percentage rankings, the Ducks have been good shooting the basketball. In the last 3 weeks, they've been way better shooting.
And let's put this into perspective. From Oregon's top 4 3-point shooters, we mentioned Brendan Grigsby. He's shooting 48%. Kerry Oquendo's shooting 44%. Jackson Shelstad's shooting 43.5%. And then Bam Tracy is shooting 40%, all from 3. And Oregon has a lot of players on the perimeter that are knocking down shots at a pretty high clip.
Yeah, and with Jadrian Bam Tracy, that's, he's a taller wing, 6'7", but he's efficient and he chooses his shots, I think, really well. I think Bam Tracy's a really good fit for what the Ducks want to do. But here's the key, Kerry Oquendo. So we had him in the studio actually when he was here on his recruiting visit. True story. And Kerry, you look at his numbers historically, he was a 27, 28% three-point shooter in his career at Georgia, and now he's at 44% right now, right?
Yeah.
And I think he would agree, one of those was a bank 3 against Washington State. So
you take those.
You take it. Yeah, you take it. They still count. Still counts for 3 points. And Bam Tracy took 1 3 in the game against Washington State. It ultimately was the 3 that kind of sealed the game, and that was the one that he took. So he's been efficient. Rigsby, I think the Ducks thought that he could be this kind of shooter, but Oquendo, that's a huge deal off the bench, I think, because to a man, either Jermaine Couisnard or Kerry Oquendo, those two guys can get to the basket pretty much at will. I have not seen a defender be able to stop them. Oquendo will get to the basket every now and then. He's gotten blocked, but more often than not, he gets to the basket, he draws a foul.
And it's because they're so strong.
Yeah, they are. They are. They're very strong guards. You're right. But the dribble, the burst to the basket from Kerry is really impressive. And now that he's hitting threes, I heard you mention this earlier on the show, Ryan. Now that Kerry Oquendo is hitting threes at this clip, look out, because when he comes into the game, teams are going to have to watch for the three-pointer, but you can't back off and be ready for the drive either because you're going to watch for that three-pointer. I don't know. I think that Oregon's shooting the ball at this rate has been a big development for the Ducks. And now if you do add back N'Faly Dante, if you do add back Nate Biddle, we saw the debut of Mookie Cook. I don't know if you mentioned that. We saw the debut, of Mookie Cook. It's a good team.
Well, let's talk about Mookie because he played in his first 2 collegiate games over the weekend. We talked to you before the Washington game. You thought, okay, maybe he would get in. He did get in.
Yeah.
He made an impact. When I watched Mookie Cook play for these last 2 games, it seemed like a level of hyperactivity, and we saw some of the insight from Dana Altman in the huddle saying, those are good minutes. That's good energy. And I that shows on the court when I was watching it. That jumped out to me. Did it jump out to you on the sideline?
It did. Especially against Washington. Coach Altman said going in that he didn't know how much Mookie Cook would be able to play, still getting back in shape, rounding into basketball form. It's been a while since he's played, right? He got hurt before he even got to Oregon. He got hurt in that All-Star game before he even got to Oregon. Now he's played his first game. He really gave the Ducks a lift. That breakaway that he had against Washington, that's an energy play. And Coach Altman said, look, all he wanted was just for him to play hard. And that's exactly what he did. And then I thought against Washington State he built on that, and Coach Altman wanted him to play a few times throughout the game in 2 to 3 minute spurts just to kind of get more and more comfortable. Mookie's a great athlete. He is off the charts athletically. Coach Altman told me that he's gotten better at shooting. That's going to be, I think, the next step for him. But there's no doubt that he brings size to an Oregon team that has started big with Mo Diawara and KJ Evans, but then has gone small in crunch time. Bam Tracy's been playing the 4 in a lot of these crunch time situations. And, the other thing that I'll say on they're 4-0 and how did they get there, I think they got there because KJ Evans has been much better the last few weeks. He still had some games where he's turned it over 5-6 times, and you want to cut that down, but he's a freshman, right? He's going to have those moments, and I think that KJ Evans' development in the absence of N'Faly Dante and Nate Biddle has been a huge deal also.
And let's dive into that because I really agree with you. I think that it's been an incredible deal for this Oregon team, someone who came in as a little bit more of a bigger wing and now is being a true 5s in some extent.
Yeah.
And he's been athletic around the rim. He's been altering shots. He can space it out on the perimeter. And I was talking with Scott Phillips a few days ago about he has a few shades of a little bit of a Kenny Wooten-ish where he's a little bit slender, athletic,
bouncy,
big, and he's got a lot of bounce around the rim, and he alters a lot of shots. I think that his development, his transformation coming in as being a 4 to now has to kind of fill in and play 5 is a big one.
And it's interesting. Like he certainly has the game and the body of like the modern NBA player, right? There's a reason that he's a 5-star. Like there's a reason that he shows up on the draft boards the way he does.
Absolutely.
And, he fits that mold. But it's funny, like in college, there still aren't a lot of teams that are playing that true NBA positionless basketball of like, you could be a 3 or you could be a 5 in the traditional sense. In college, I think that, I don't know, I guess the point I'm making that he has the ability to kind of allow Oregon to do that. Like, he will take the ball at the wing and shoot, right? He will hit threes. And he honestly might be Oregon's best free throw shooter, which is a pretty big thing to say for a guy of his size and being a freshman. He has great touch on his shot. I think physically and like the physicality of him too, like as he gets more comfortable at the college level, he'll advance in that category also. No, I think you're right in the comparison that he has some of that bounce, but he's got a better outside game, I think, maybe than he even gets credit for. And that's going to lead to him, in my mind at least, that's going to, I think, lead to him having success at the next level too.
82% from the line for Kwame Evans.
And I think that's either the second or the best on the team right now.
It's second. It's the best of players who are active,
right,
only behind Jesse Sarzuela. Ducks in action. Just one game this week against Cal coming up on Saturday. Just break down what the rest of the Oregon Sports Network kind of broadcast schedule looks like from now until then.
That's a good question. Let's see.
You've got a show tomorrow.
Duck Insider tomorrow. I think I'll be hosting. We'll see. Tip-off Tuesday. We will do the show live, again, 2:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. Chris Clayton actually already talked with Kelly Graves and Grace Van Sluten. Tomorrow morning, I'll talk with Coach Altman and Jermaine Cousinard before the Ducks practice at Matthew Knight Arena. And so we do the show in the afternoon for those of you who want to watch the show live on the Oregon basketball social media channels, and then across the Oregon Sports Network in the evening at 7 o'clock. Podcasts will be available as well, and then Duck Insider the rest of the week. And you're right, men's basketball only having the one game this week. That's the difference in the Pac-12 schedule this year. Remember, for the last couple seasons, it was a 20-game schedule, but the way the calendar fell, the Ducks and everyone else actually played conference games before Christmas in December. They'd have the one-off conference games, like the Ducks played Arizona State, Stanford, for example, and then. But now the way that the schedule falls, they can play one game and have a little extra practice time, which is a big deal for this team. I mean, especially like you think about maybe getting Dante Biddle back. We'll see if Coach Altman has updates on that tomorrow. But the truth is that Oregon, for a guy like Mookie Cook, how valuable is the extra practice days? Without playing the game on a Thursday, like you have some extra practice days now. So, yeah, that's the schedule. I'll be at practice.
Joey Mack, he'll be on the Oregon Sports Network airwaves all week with a whole bunch of other things. It's the Ducks, 12-3 overall, 4-0 in conference play. We'll be back in action at 5 o'clock at Matthew Knight Arena coming up on Saturday.
Did you know that baseball practice starts this month?
I did. We're into it now.
Yep. This is fun.
We still got more stuff to talk about. Football, adding new guys on their coaching staff, guys returning for next year. We'll break it all down. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Welcome back on Duck Insider here in the Country Financial Studios. Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Some football news and notes as we continue to break down the show as part of our Cafe Yum 2-minute drill. Oregon football bringing in a new member of the coaching staff. Taylor Porter announced as an assistant strength and conditioning coach for Oregon football earlier today. Spent the last 4 seasons on the Michigan State coaching staff. Also has worked in the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, and Jacksonville Jaguars, a new member of Dan Lanning's staff here in Eugene. Welcome to the family, Coach Porter. And also a few big-time announcements from a few players that had decisions to make, whether they were going to stick around for the last year of their eligibility, or maybe they have a few more if they were going to declare for the NFL draft. We talked about Jeffrey Bossa and Tez Johnson. They announced that they were going to come back last week. A few more over the weekend for Oregon football returnees as part of the 2024 team. Tysheem Johnson, he announced on his social media that he's going to be coming back for next year. 70 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 7 PBUs for Tysheem Johnson this season. Also, Justin Jacobs, he said that he's going to be back for 1 more year, according to his social media. He had 32 tackles this year, and what was a shortened season for him, where he missed the first few games due to injury and came back and was a really impactful member of the defense. On the defensive side, another first-year Duck turned second-year Duck. The transfer Jordan Birch had a strong first season in green and yellow, 34 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 5 quarterback hits. He announced that he will be coming back for another year of Oregon football. Those are the 3 big ones on the defensive side of the ball that came through over the weekend. On the offensive side of the ball, it's 3 returnees as well. Terrence Ferguson, the big tight end for Oregon, he had a tremendous season at the tight end position for the Ducks, reeling in 6 touchdowns on 42 receptions this year. Noah Whittington, he was injured against Colorado. He said he's going to be back for another year. And then Trayshawn Holden as well, announcing that he will be part of the Oregon wide receiver room for next season. So a whole bunch of new Ducks shaping up what this 2024 season is going to look like. A whole bunch of Oregon Sports Network over the next few days. Joey on the show tomorrow. Go Ducks. See you then.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal